In October 1973, Motown released a collaboration that seemed like an easy commercial victory. It spent 36 weeks on the charts, spawned 3 hit singles, and eventually sold over 1 million copies. But the album's cover tells a different story. The two stars are positioned back-to-back, unsmiling. Marvin Gaye looks off to the left, Diana Ross looks to the right. They appear completely disconnected. What sounds like a shared performance is an auditory illusion. This record was assembled through a series of engineering workarounds designed to mask the fact that the two biggest stars in soul music were barely speaking to one another. To understand why the atmosphere in the studio was so hostile, you have to look back 3 years earlier, to the moment Marvin Gaye's world collapsed. In 1967, Marvin Gaye began a run of hits with a 21-year-old singer named Tammi Terrell. Their vocal chemistry was so natural that audiences across the country assumed the pair was in love. That partnership ended in tragedy. During a performance at a college in Virginia, Tammi collapsed on stage directly into Marvin's arms. She was suffering from a brain tumor. For 3 years, Marvin stayed by her side as her health deteriorated. In March 1970, Tammi died. She was only 24 years old. The loss broke Marvin Gaye. He refused to perform live for 2 years and publicly vowed that he would never record another duet with a female artist. He became convinced that he was cursed. He looked back at his previous partners, Mary Wells and Kim Weston, and noted that both of their careers had fractured after they finished recording with him. Marvin entered the 1970s as a superstitious, grieving man. But at Motown headquarters, Gordy viewed Marvin's emotional state as a hurdle to a massive business opportunity. By 1971, Gordy was managing Motown like a factory, where every artist was a product to be optimized. He had 2 specific problems to solve. Diana Ross had left the Supremes and needed a solo breakthrough. Meanwhile, Marvin Gaye had just released What's Going On, giving him more leverage over the label than he had ever had before. Diana was eager for the collaboration. She viewed Marvin as the ultimate source of artistic credibility and believed a joint album would solidify her status as a serious solo act. Marvin remained firm in his refusal. To break him, Gordy turned to his own sister, Marvin's wife, Anna Gordy Gaye. Under intense family pressure, Marvin's resistance finally began to wear down. He eventually agreed, but only on 2 conditions. His name had to appear first on the credits, and he would receive half of the producer royalties. Gordy accepted the terms and shook Marvin's hand. With the deal finalized, the project moved forward. But it was a collaboration built on conflicting interests, a grieving man trying to protect his legacy, and an ambitious star trying to build hers. In 1971, the 2 artists arrived at the studio to begin the physical work of recording. Marvin arrived early. He sat in the recording booth and began heavily smoking marijuana, a habit he used to create a psychological buffer between himself and his surroundings. When Diana Ross walked into the room, she was pregnant with her first child. The sight of the studio filled with thick smoke provoked an immediate, visceral reaction. She demanded he stop. Marvin told her that if he couldn't smoke, he couldn't sing. He wasn't just being difficult. He was using his process as a shield against a partnership he never wanted. Diana turned to Gordy for support. Gordy, who was the head of the label and Diana's romantic partner, said nothing. He simply sat and watched. In a flash of frustration, Diana picked up a bunch of grapes, threw them at Gordy, and walked out of the session. The collaborative vision for the album died that afternoon. From that point on, they would record only 1 song face-to-face. The rest of the project would be engineered in total isolation. When the album was finally released in 1973, Marvin discovered that Gordy had ignored their handshake agreement. The record was titled Diana and Marvin, placing her name in the lead position. The music on the disc was a lie. These 2 vocal tracks were recorded months apart and miles away from each other. They never touch. Engineers simply spliced them together to create the sound of 2 people in a room. Motown had already planned a second album, but the project was immediately scrapped. Neither artist was willing to endure the process again. Diana eventually left Motown for a record-breaking deal at RCA. Marvin Gaye remained at the label, but he would be dead 10 years later, killed by his own father. The Diana and Marvin sessions produced a million-selling hit, but they remain a document of unresolved grief and the limits of corporate control. They prove that while a studio can manufacture a harmony, it cannot manufacture a connection. In the fall of 1973, Motown released Diana and Marvin. The album moved fast, selling over 1 million copies, outpacing standard releases. It showed remarkable international endurance. The record spent 36 weeks on the UK charts, driven by the hit You Are Everything. Reviewers were captivated. Critics praised the blend of their voices, calling the sound gentle magic. For audiences listening at home, it sounded like a perfect vocal partnership. But that perfect blend was an engineering trick. Throughout the entire recording process, the two superstars barely occupied the same room. The album's intimate feel was manufactured in post-production, as engineer Russ Tarana stitched together isolated solo performances. The manufacturing of this illusion took place inside Hitsville, USA. Diana Ross would come into the studio, sing her parts alone, and leave. On a different day, Marvin Gaye would arrive, record his vocals in isolation, and go home. Motown had used this exact technique years earlier with Marvin and Tammi Terrell, when Tammi was too ill to record in a standard session. The physical separation was matched by a professional rift. When the album was finally complete, label boss Gordy decided to bill the record as Diana and Marvin, placing her name first. Marvin had been promised top billing. When he saw the cover, he told colleagues he smirked and chuckled at the decision. But he had no choice. Motown owned the finished record, so he conceded. Engineer Russ Tarana smoothed over the physical and professional distance between the artists, turning a combative recording process into a harmonized product. In February 1974, just 4 months after the album dropped, Marvin Gaye appeared on Soul Train. When a fan asked if he would record with Diana again, he told the crowd he'd love to, calling her a beautiful human being. That public optimism masked a growing internal crisis regarding Berry Gordy's absolute control over his artists. Diana Ross was leaning into the Motown machine, embracing the high-glamour pop superstardom that Gordy's label had designed for her. Marvin was moving in the opposing direction. Having already fought for the creative control of what's going on, he was now demanding his own studio and his own terms, refusing to play by the label's strict rules. While audiences were waiting for a reunion, the two artists were rapidly pulling apart into different ideological worlds. According to biographer David Ritz, the final fracture came in 1975. Marvin received a phone call confirming that Motown would not offer him the financial terms and creative respect he was asking for, so he began planning his immediate exit. By 1978, the situation had deteriorated. Marvin was broke, facing massive tax issues, and living in exile in Belgium, recording inside a rented tour bus. The man who had been the prince of Motown was living like a refugee. The possibility of a second album officially ended in 1981, when Diana Ross left Motown to sign with RCA Records. The same corporate machinery that assembled their first collaboration had, by 1981, left the two artists in separate commercial worlds, with no clear path back to a second project. The two singers did manage one brief reunion in 1978, recording a song for Pop's We Love You, a tribute album dedicated to Berry Gordy's father. For the first time on a duet track, Diana Ross and Marvin Gaye stepped into the same studio space at the same moment to sing together. Witnesses described the recording session as natural, with the two artists finding a vocal chemistry that required little adjustment from the engineers. They recorded I'll Keep My Light in My Window, a track that went largely unnoticed by the broader public despite the rare physical collaboration. The only time their voices truly blended in reality was hidden away on a minor tribute project, proving how much chemistry was lost during their years of isolation. On April 1, 1984, one day before his 45th birthday, Marvin Gaye was shot and killed by his own father in Los Angeles. In the video for her tribute song Missing You, Ross looked directly into a camera with the raw expression of someone mourning a personal loss. Before his death, Marvin had reflected on the 1973 sessions with a sense of regret. He admitted he was too cavalier about the project, stating, "I should have done everything in the world to make Diana comfortable." Their engineered duet remains a million-selling piece of pop history, but he never got the opportunity to record a follow-up in person. They possessed two voices uniquely suited for each other, yet they left behind just one stitched-together illusion, followed by a silence that lasted the rest of their lives.
I had a notion I could be the kind of man who lets the good things go and still understands. I told myself that I was free when I walked out that door, but freedom's just a room with nothing in it anymore.
I remember how the studio felt that afternoon, the way the light came through and hit you like a tune. I thought I knew exactly what I needed from this life. I was so sure, and I was wrong, and that's all right.
I've been the kind of man who never stays too long, who keeps on moving till he's moved beyond the song. I built my walls from everything that I refuse, and every wall looks just like someone that I knew.
I kept the photograph we never meant to take, the one where neither one of us was wide awake.
You had that look you only had when no one watched, like all the things you held were slowly being lost.
I tried to hold what can't be held by careful hands. I poured myself into the space where love expands.
And every time I thought we'd finally found our ground, the thing I tried to keep was what I let come down.
I'm not the kind of woman who will tell you what I need. I learned too young to keep the wanting underneath.
But I have hummed a melody on ordinary days when no one's watching, hummed it softly anyway. We made something that neither one of us could make alone. We made something from nothing but the truth and borrowed time. We made something, and I don't know what to call it now. It's gone. But something we made was beautiful. I used to think that I was smarter than the room, that I could feel the sun and never need the moon. I was so full of what I thought I understood that I couldn't see the very thing that could have been good.
I wrote 100 songs about what love should feel like, but I never wrote one when the moment felt right.
'Cause writing it would mean I had to let it be real, and real is something I was never taught to feel.
Now I listen to the playback of a perfect afternoon, and your voice is sitting right beside mine in that room. And I think about the man I might have learned to be if I'd stayed long enough for you to stay with me. There's a room inside of me I've never let them see, where I kept all the music that was only meant for me.
that plays in empty halls.
I'm not angry, I want you to know I'm not angry.
I just wonder sometimes what was worth the letting go.
Was it worth the independence and the silence and the road? Was the freedom worth the music that we left unfinished blind?
I told myself that I was strong enough to close the door, but strength is just a word for what you're still too scared to mourn.
I'm not grieving, I just sometimes sit in quiet rooms and I hear it, what we made. I still hear it in the tune.
We made something that neither one of us could make alone. We made something from nothing but the truth and borrowed time. We made something, and I don't know what to call it now. It's gone. But something we made was beautiful. If I could say one thing, then say it.
I never found another voice that sounded right beside mine.
I know
That's not an apology.
I know what it is.
There are rooms that you can only enter once,
And rooms that you can never find again. And there are songs that only live in certain hands, and hands that only open and then close again.
we made something that neither one of us could make alone. We made something from nothing but the truth and borrowed time. We made something, and I don't know what to call it now. It's gone. But something
Something we made was beautiful.